we mentioned the way the game is played and the rules. And so with that, there's going to be some changes in the rules in terms of the NBA next season. So I'm going to go through some of these, right? Some of the new rules are if a shooter launches or leans into a defender at an abnormal angle, if an offensive player abruptly veers off of their path into a defender, if a shooter kicks their leg up or to the side at an abnormal angle, if an offensive player's off arm hooks the defender, often in the process of attempting a shot in a non basketball manner, all these will either be a no call, where previously it would be a foul on the defender, or it will be an offensive foul, I guess, if it's an egregious. So, Harold, I want to start with you again as our resident professional. Kind of, I know what you think, but go ahead and tell
So,
everybody,
so hold up. So
how you feel about
they're not calling the push off. They're not calling the.
Andy. We gonna get to that. No, they're not
Oh
calling the push
man,
off, because if they
come
do
on,
that,
man.
LeBron won't score anymore. So no, they're not gonna do that. But Harold, you as our resident professional veteran, go ahead and tell us what you think about some of these rules in terms of not necessarily leveling the playing field for the defender, but you know, taking away some of the nonsense that offensive players have been getting away with for years.
Well,
One to be sure, James Harden.
well, I think you just said a mouthful, taking away the nonsense. I mean, that's not the way the game is played. That's not the way it's supposed to be played. You know, again, the offensive guy almost have total advantage in today's game. Uh, I mean, I totally agree with some of the rule changes. I think that uh, you know I won't say that you won't see as much scoring, but just in terms of the nonsense and the flopping and all this crap, I hope that they definitely implement it and stick to it, because some of the I mean, a lot of these calls are ridiculous, man, and they literally change games, from an officiating standpoint, and you saw it during the playoffs. Um, you know, 2 calls, 3 calls, and uh, Phoenix could have beaten Milwaukee. I mean, it's just that crucial in the game. So for me, I mean, I'm happy that they're kind of backtracking a little bit on uh, on some of these rules, man.
So, I mean, if you ask me, the biggest one, I would let all this go if you would just bring back the forearm check. You could have, if it's me, you can have all of this if you can bring back the forearm check. They're never going to bring back the hand check, but at least give a defender some opportunity. Let them forearm check, and you can have all the rest of this crap. But they are attempting to try and do something, because I think the league was now realizing just how ridiculous things were getting for in terms of what the offensive player was getting away with. Andy, go ahead and give us your thoughts on
No,
this.
no, let Landon. I'd like to get Landon's feedback on that.
Landon, go ahead, man.
Talking about the rules, right? So the edits of the rules. So that means Trae Young, Paul George, Luka, LeBron James specifically can't jump into players and collect fouls. Is what we're talking about, correct? More or less.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, that's about right. Now, how fairly they'll actually play with
Reggie Miller.
LeBron, that's a different thing entirely.
Chris Paul is a master of this too. So the two old, I guess you could say the two OGs, I guess you could say, that are there. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to give more of a playing field to both sides. And even if it's outrageous with them flailing, kicking the leg out, stuff like that, it should be an offensive foul, because I think that the offensive side of the game has had a lot of advantages over the last, I could say, 10 years, more or less, give or take. The last 10 years, the offensive players had more of the advantage than the defensive player. And you're basically saying, you can play defense, but there's no point because you're going to call for a foul anyway. So I'm glad that they're changing the rules and giving it more of a playing field option.
I don't think the rules go far enough, right? I think these players. So we've now gotten to the point where players don't actually need to have moves to be able to score, right? It's essentially, okay, you beat me to the spot, I put my forearm in your chest and move you out the way. And then one of the announcers say, oh, what's bully ball? No, that's an offensive foul, right? The guy beat you to the spot, and you put your forearm in his chest to move him out the way. And depends on who the ref is on a particular night, the ref might call a foul on the defense. So, Bruce, you said the forearm check. I'm thinking the forearm check offensively. Right. The kicking on the shot is egregious as well. I think from an aesthetic standpoint, I think the problem is they're losing a lot of the purists, right? And I don't know if maybe that's the reason why this is happening. I was listening to Tim Legler talk about that this morning, and we'll get to that in terms of the super teams. But he was saying, like, in terms of the overall aesthetic of the game, it's affecting the purists in terms of the fan base, right? Yeah, a lot of the surface level guys who don't really watch the games are completely okay with all of this stuff, and because it keeps them in the conversation. To your earlier point, Landon, in terms of being able to have something to engage about with the numbers and all these other acronyms and all these other things. But the guy who actually watches the game and has to watch these referees blow the whistle for God knows what, right? Offense initiates contact, defense reacts, and it's a defensive foul. The hope is that these guys will be consistent in these calls versus just using them just for show in the beginning of the season and somehow swallowing their whistles when they matter most. We'll see.
Yep.
All right. So let's go from here. Do you have something, Harold? My bad.
Nah, I was just agreeing with Andy. Like I said, I think that the biggest thing, and which has been a big thing over the years with NBA refs, is just being consistent, man. Not just starting something and then, oh, okay, well, it's playoff time, or it's mid-season, we can let this go, that go. Like, the biggest thing is just being consistent.
Harold, you've been on the floor when those things have happened, right? So you've seen them happen. So what is that feeling like, right? Because to be honest with you, I'll be completely transparent. I don't have the temperament. Me and a ref would have been fighting a long time ago. So I would love to know, how do you keep I'd have been drop kicking refs left and right. They'd have got me out the league 3 to 4 weeks in.
It ain't so much going after the refs, because you really can't do nothing to them. It's the fact that you going after the player. Because I remember clearly one night, Karl Malone, who was probably one of the dirtiest post players ever, we were in Utah, and he got a rebound, and I'm right there next to him, like hovering him, and he just shot me a bolt, like dude hit me so hard, I dropped straight to my knees, like somebody just kicked me in the balls. So I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So we went back down the other end, we shooting free throws. He went up for a rebound, and I took his ass straight into the goal post. They called a tech on me and everything. I'm like, dude, listen, I'm young, but I'm not that type of dude. I'm not waiting for the refs to call shit. You know what you did to me? Here's payback. So
he knew.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, listen, you call, but listen, I ain't never seen a challenge I didn't like, bro. So, I mean, it's whatever. But you get frustrated as a player, man. And I guess that's part of the professionalism that comes along at that level, where a lot of things you kind of have to let go, just because. But you may say something to the refs here and there, but I mean, that don't really mean much unless you're some superstar or something. Then they come back down and give you another call. Me, on the other hand, I wasn't getting no calls, so I had to take matters into my own hands.